Recorded on TalkShoe. Recorded live.
Perfect. So, first off, I want to thank all y'all for joining tonight and thank everybody who's joining. This is season 2021, episode 2, and part of the playlist of Oklahoma Sooners football live streams and just videos in general. I'm trying to keep everything pretty categorized, guys, so that way anybody who wants to go back and watch these streams are more than happy to. So tonight, not only are we joined by Oni Kuno and Gavin, we're also joined by my friend Josh, who I refer to as Josh Prime. So I'll kind of go around. So Sean, how are you doing today? How are you doing from all this news this past almost week now?
I'm tired. I have an idiot roommate who likes to listen to Chucklefuck podcasts at 3:00 in the morning, wake my ass up. But other than that,
well
I love to have a dog bark 3:00 in the morning, wake me up, and then hear about a podcast about how funny Chevy Chase is instead of sleeping. That's just me. So I'm a little grumpy right now. But at the end of the day, you want to talk about like the news that everyone's been talking about since Wednesday afternoon, around 1 or 2 o'clock, give or take.
Oh yeah, 1000% with it. Rolling into that really fast. Gavin, how are you doing today from it? How are you feel? What's your initial gut feeling from all this?
First, my gut reaction, it was like, you always get some of that talk, one rumor or two and everything. But, when it started developing, I was like, I went from, oh crap, it was like, oh, this is great. It was like, it was like one of those weird 180s that I've seen. And from where I've been working at, where I was working at, that was pretty much anybody could talk about. I mean, whatever like news that was reporting just throughout the day or anything, that was just the main talk. There was no major issues about, either some crime or politics or anything. That was just it.
Oh yeah, I agree with it. Josh Prime, what about you? What's your initial gut feeling from all this news that came in that initially started as a joke, and then it's kind of it's happening. Well, 99.9% that it's happening.
When it started, I was, I first heard that, I'm like, nah, that's not real. That's not real. I don't believe that. And then the longer it went on, and the more we found out about it, it's like there is something to this. So that was my initial reaction.
I mean, that was mine too, because initially when I saw all this news that was coming out, it was I saw it at work, and it was like one of the articles on the subreddit, and I was like, oh, this is probably just some lazy article that someone wrote and somebody just put some notes in it just for some clicks. But then, as Sean mentioned a couple days ago, it absolutely exploded, which is funny because I was working on this live stream, like kind of notes I had. We were going to probably mention like the Olympics. Let's talk about recruiting. Let's talk about like
no one cares about the Olympics. Our basketball team is trash. So
our basketball team is trash. Yeah, they got beat.
Defense. I mean, honestly, when you have Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard out there playing defense, I mean, hell, I mean, the international defense is a lot tougher than the NBA defense.
It is Kevin Durant's fault. I will always say it's Kevin Durant's fault. But regardless, I had stuff planned. I was even going to talk about why we shouldn't have fall weddings. But then the Big 12 decided, specifically OU in Texas, no, we can't be upstaged. We're going to drop this news now. So for our listeners watching in right now or watching later in the future from it, let's go back a couple days. So we all mentioned like Wednesday was when the news dropped with it. Sean, when did you think stuff kind of just started to get serious? Like when you thought it wasn't a joke anymore?
When the Texas A&M athletic director visually looked like he wanted to murder somebody, like he wanted to kill a puppy, that's when I knew there was some teeth to it. It's like, oh, this is real, because he publicly said on television, we want Texas A&M to be the only team in the SEC from the state of Texas. I'm like, there's some smoke right there. And then Feinbaum took it seriously. And then he had the guy who wrote the article from the Houston Chronicle, who's an Aggie beat writer, all due respect, but still, he laid it all out right there on his desk and said, this is going to happen in a couple weeks. And based on the progress since Wednesday, I truly believe that at this point.
Do you think that he tried to do it to try to get it to backfire, except now that it's backfired on the Aggies instead?
I mean, Who specifically? You mean the beat writer? No, he's
Yeah.
no. His job is to break a story. I don't think he's like. There's a difference between covering a team, being an utter pathetic fanboy like Billy Liucci. No, that man's a professional who broke the story. Someone, I don't know, like some say A&M leaked it, some say Texas leaked it to screw with their media day when Jimbo's up at the podium. I really don't give a damn who leaked it. The bottom line is that it's real, because we're not having this conversation right now. We're not having people freak out. We're not having article after article. We're not having Bruce Feldman confirm shit at this point if it's not real. So, just the craziness is that, old rich white men were able to keep a secret for 6 months and not like talk to their boosters or whoever was important. They were able to keep mouths shut until Wednesday when, things were finally getting in motion. And so, we can talk about like, the who, what, why, or how this is going to affect things. But, this became very real day of. Once because that's what really got the ball rolling,
and that's the funny part. Guys, feel free to jump in on and just talk. I'm more of just asking questions to everybody with it, but feel free to just comment and everything. And for the three of you watching right now, hey, I'm impressed that we have 3 right now. So congratulations.
It's probably honestly, it's probably just us watching ourselves if you really stop and think about it.
It's either that. Hey, I know my dad's watching. He wanted to have a live stream because he's like, Sean's gonna be on. I gotta watch. I'm like, cool.
I don't deserve to be popular at all. I really don't. I'm just like,
yeah,
I'm a
you're the most popular guy out there, if anything. I mean,
I'm not popular for anything.
Classic.
Classic modesty.
Yeah, classic sports. I saw that you posted in there that I hope the Big 12 doesn't come back from the dead this time. I don't think they are. I think we're moving on into the next kind of stage of what college football is going to look like for the next at least 20 years with it.
I see the American athletic in your future for most of you motherfuckers. Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry for cursing if that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's your one.
Yeah.
That's your one of the stream. Which is funny. It is funny. I was going to wait for a little bit from it, but let's bring it up now. So I don't think there was a Reddit thread earlier today that I saw.
See, that was your first mistake right there, but continue.
Well, yeah, actually, fun fact, I got banned from the subreddit for 3 days because I was posting stuff that apparently Aggies and Iowa State fans did not like to hear. But we're here now, and what I'm saying too is I think this is a absolute wake-up call for the other probably 6 programs that are not Kansas and West Virginia in the Big 12, that their brand is not worth anything. I saw today on the news, I think it was CBS article, that the Pac-12 is passing on apparently Oklahoma State and Kansas State because they don't bring anything to the media market.
Well, plus you're asking the Pac-12 to be proactive and do something progressive, which they weren't going to do. I mean, they tried 10 years ago when they were going to have the 2 biggest brands like that were willing to be free agents that are now SEC bound. But we can time travel back to that if we want to. But no, just if we're talking about brands, like West Virginia more than likely should land in the ACC. If they don't, I don't know where they're going. Kansas should find a Power 5 for the moment spot. They should find a spot somewhere just based on basketball. Is it football money? No, but that brand is going to live. That's going to thrive somewhere. I think if you're Iowa State, timing is great. You got to find out if the Big Ten is. I mean, they're perfect for the Big Ten because they're an AAU school, so they fit that criteria. Because the Big 12 is all about that. Because when Nebraska joined, they were an AAU school, and then they lost their status like a year later, which is hilarious. But those 3 schools I think have a shot. Baylor, you're gonna die a slow, painful death. I'm gonna enjoy every second of it.
I'm joining in on that one. I'm absolutely. I have my opinions on every other team, but Baylor.
The reason Baylor was in the Big 12 to begin with is because someone in the state of Texas had power when the original Big 12 formed in '96.
Correct. They politicked in.
Yeah, they politicked in. TCU was going to be supposedly the final team from what I recall, but Baylor was able to. I think the governor was a Baylor grad at the time, if I recall correctly, or something like. Someone of important of note was a Baylor grad, and like this little tiny little private religious school, which, you know, allows bad things to happen to your daughters on campus. It doesn't tell you about it, but, you know, sell the CAB t-shirts all you want, Baylor fans. Coach, our Bryles did nothing wrong. But, you know, they're going to die a slow, painful death, and I'm going to enjoy it. But for the Pokes and K-State and TCU, it's just, it's tough right now because you're not a natural geographical fit anywhere else, which is not the end of the world because we have these things called airplanes, and West Virginia has done just fine. But I'm telling you, like, I'm not joking when I say I see the American Athletic in your future, or you try to poach them. Either way, it's going to be the same thing because there's no way this ends. There's no way this ends well for most of the teams of the Big 12. Like, their only hope is that package deal where people are dreaming up with the Pac-12. I just don't see it happening.
Josh, what's your thoughts on the other teams in the Big 12 right now? Like, what is their future? How's your feelings on it with it? Not including OU and Texas, since they're probably SEC bound at this point.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to them. You know, it's one of those things that I feel like I think perception is going to be in two different camps on this. One, it's going to be, oh, that's great. It's, you know, the camps that are on the SEC side, like, oh, it's going to be a power conference. You know, because for OU and Texas, this is great. But for every other school, this move's not so great. And I have a feeling it's kind of one of those things. It may be looked at as a Kevin Durant move or a LeBron James when he went to Miami. It's like, we're going to go create the evil empire. Here's the evil empire, you know. Great for all the schools that are in it. And everyone else is going to be like, oh.
They're just jealous that they didn't get their smash invite to the SEC. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
OU and Texas got their nice little letter, and everyone else is going, wait a minute. We're not even going to get me costumes. That's kind of where we're at this point. Gavin, what are you hearing up there with Tulsa area?
Okay, I got a few grads that went to OU, and from most of the point, though, too, it's been a little bit of shock and a little bit of disbelief. I haven't been speaking with some of a little bit of the old timers as well, though, too, you know, talking about, you know, days of the big eight, you know, and everything, and more a little bit of a disappointment. But it's kind of been like a little bit all over the place. It's like a little bit of a shock all around from what I've gathered over here. And it's one of those things too. It's like, you know, it's kind of like how, like, I would say, like, back, like, I think you mentioned this, Sean, like when A&M, Nebraska, they decided to leave, you know, go to a different conference and everything, and Colorado, Missouri, you know, they all follow suit though too. And, you know, we were like, you know, thought it was going to be the end. And then, of course, you had TCU and West Virginia being added. And then it was like, kept going for a little bit, but then it was just going into a slow, miserable death. And everybody's just wondering what the hell happened. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I thought, you know, we thought we were trying to do something here, but it was just a slow, painful death. It's kind of like how it is more than anything.
Well, yeah, I think for the Big 12, I mean, I don't think it's coincidence. I keep on hearing different things at this point of why are they doing it now? Why were they waiting to announce it? First off, I do want to say, Sean, you brought it up. I absolutely think it's hysterical that they brought it up during Texas A&M Big 12 media days or SEC media days, where it's like, oh yeah, OU and Texas are joining the conference. Peace out. What? The shock on his face. Like, how do you break that news to your basically your sibling?
Personally, I think I love it because it's just one of those. Here's what people need to understand. I watched college football for a long time. I consider myself, I'm not like the biggest historian, but I love going back in time and just reading and watching old documentaries and learning everything I can about the sport, you know, as it develops. So when I get into arguments with people on Twitter, you know, I'm wasting my time, but I can also in my head at least win arguments and they'll just keep going on spouting BS. So I am wasting my time with that, but I still love the sport to death. Like, people think the SEC is the most corrupt conference or the most heated rivals, like the Iron Bowl. And to an extent, they are correct with, like, I think the Iron Bowl for years was not played for
Yeah,
a
it was
long
like
stretch
from,
of time.
I think it was like from like the if I'm correct, Sean, it was like somewhere from the 30s to the 60s until they
Yeah.
were threatened to sign in legislature where both of them played every year,
Yeah.
too, by the state.
Yeah, don't get started on legislators and everything.
Yeah.
But when it,
What? The legislators actually did something for football? What?
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen here. But people don't understand who didn't watch it or didn't have parents who watched it on a regular basis or follow it. Nobody touches the old Southwest Conference when it comes to corruption and bitter hatred. You ain't got nothing on them. Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, Notre Dame, USC, you ain't got nothing on the Southwest Conference. There is so much hatred in that league, it doesn't exist anymore. That's how bad it is. And that spirit has been carried on. What we're talking about a lot right now is the spirit of the Southwest Conference living through the hatred of Texas and Texas A&M. They hate each other so much that the idea that Texas would join the same conference to play A&M again is what spurred all of this. And I'm loving every second of it, by the way. But like when you really stop and think about it, every conference Texas has been in has folded. Southwest Conference folded. Looks like the Big 12 is going to fold. I'm not saying the Southeast Conference is in danger or anything, but just let the SEC should go to the doctor annually, get their annual checkup just to make sure there isn't a burnt orange fungus growing inside of them, a little bit of a cancer. There are some people worried about that. But I think we're gonna find out which is more powerful, the irresistible force or the immovable object. I'm referring to like Texas thinking they're in charge versus the unity of the Southeastern Conference, and we will find out which survives at the end of the day. How, like, if it lasts 100 years, then then the SEC won. But I seriously do wonder that if 10, 20 years down the road, God willing, we're all alive to see it, if something happens and Texas is unhappy for whatever reason and they somehow gain a foothold and get more power, I'd be more than happy to sit back and watch the fireworks and see that happen.
If I may, real quick, Josh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just thinking, if you're looking at it and I'm just looking at this from a whole point right now, like from an athletic program as a whole. I mean, look, the football program for OU, of course, has been dominant. Basketball, it's kind of been downhill and everything, but from what I'm hearing, it's a little bit of an uprise. But of course, you got gymnastics; it's doing well, and then of course the softball program, is doing well, in a sense as a whole. And I think, Sean, you mentioned this in like one of your videos though too. It's like, for the type of the athletic program that they've had though too, it would make sense, to be a part into the SEC from an athletic program, in that sort of sense. Because like,
OU or Texas?
OU.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I just think of it, if anything, too, it's like this is a better chance to kind of help, like build your brand and everything. And especially with the, with the incoming of the NIL now, where like how we said like last time, like Bryce Young getting $1 million and in NIL deals and not even starting a quarterback and everything. I mean, that, kind of says something a little bit right there.
Well, here's the thing with Oklahoma. And there's news dropping tonight that like the Big 12 has had a little meeting with OU Texas, basically where
so the Big 12 brought the marriage counselors.
Well, they basically figuratively got on their hands and knees and begged them not to go. And reported, these talks, we're going to be talking for days on end. We're going to be talking. I wouldn't be surprised if they still announce it tomorrow morning. Like, and if it's not tomorrow morning, people are going to freak out a little bit. But here's the thing about Oklahoma specifically. As much the program is strong and solid right now, it's on a good foundation. But over the past couple years, there have been a few cracks in the armor. And unfortunately, This is the truth of the matter. Like the Big 12 just was like, for if we're talking 10, 20 years down the road, it's not looking good. Even if OU and Texas did stay, the money is just not going to be there. And so COVID hurt everybody, and it also hurt OU. But season ticket, believe it or not, Oklahoma, as hot as they've been since Bob Stoops came in '99 up until this present point, are losing season ticket holders. People can't afford them. Pandemic doesn't help things. And let's be honest here, you're not really getting your bang for your buck when you go to an OU football game when it comes to the opponents rolling into town. And because listen, Joe C and Bob and Lincoln have done more than enough to try to get big time opponents, non-conference, to come into Norman. But when it comes to the conference schedule currently, the slate, it's a crapshoot every year. You are not like Bedlam is going to be big every other year, but what else? Is TCU going to be that team this year? Is it going to be Iowa State? Is it going to be Baylor? But even if it is, it doesn't get you that excited, because when you're Oklahoma, we are so it's like a board, and it's like a spoiled fan type of thing. But truth of the matter is, we're so used to winning at home. There's really not much of a fear we're going to lose. Has it happened a little bit more lately in the past few years than, say, from 2005 to 2011? Sure. We had a 39 game home win streak at one point. So I just you have to re-energize the fan base now before we get too complacent. It can happen even if we're winning, because Joe C and they need the money, not just for season tickets, but for football. They need to find a way to get that cash to finish off the new press box. They need to get cash for basketball to build a new arena. Lloyd Noble is falling apart. It's they're putting that thing together with chewed bubble gum and rubber bands. I'm being facetious, of course, and softball is more than deserving of a new stadium. I mean, look what Patty Gasso's done. More than deserving. They've had these plans. Look, it's a combination of also the pandemic, where prices are sky high for certain things at the moment, but that's going to come down at some point, and you need a reason to get your big money donors to fork over the cash. And not only are you going to get that cash from TV deals from ESPN, because it's going to be all ESPN, and boy, they're going to be a big part if OU gets out of this thing early, like I think they can. They'll be able to break ground on all these things. And this is something you got to do this now. This is for 50 years. This is for the next 50 years. It's not for the next 5 or 10.
Well, that's something you mentioned, Sean, and I was thinking about this not 5 minutes ago with it. When you put in perspective on getting the fans energized with the home game schedules, in reality, the last time I can even think of that people were excited to go to an OU home game that was kind of sort of big on it, and we actually walked out of there with a win, was Florida State, and I think it was 2010. Most of our games have been fantastic, have been away, because you got Notre Dame, but we lost that game, and people were foaming at the mouth for us to win that one. Josh Prime and I went to the Ohio State game, and that was a disaster, losing by, I think it was 20 points to Ohio State.
45 to 24.
Yeah, 21, even worse. I remember cussing like a sailor, and Josh Prime probably remembers that. So we were very unhappy campers. But seriously, thinking of games that were mean something outside of Bedlam, what games have brought people in that they feel this was a great game? It's been everywhere else, whether it's at Ohio State, at Florida State, at Tennessee. Those moments aren't happening at home.
It doesn't have to be necessarily a great game. If Florida's number 10 in the country and they walk in there and we beat them by 30, who cares? We're beating down Florida and it's fun. This is going to be new. There's a reason we had Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama on the non-conference schedule over the next however many years, and now they're going to be conference games, so we're going to have to scramble to replace that. But I don't think it's going to matter that much, because our conference slate, however they set it up, is going to be a lot more interesting and fun than what we've had recently. Even if Arkansas is garbage, it's going to be fun to play Arkansas.
For whatever reason, they hate us.
Yes, I look forward to playing Arkansas. They could be 1-10, but their fan base is they have the arrogance and pageantry of OU fans without the wins and championships. They act like OU fans but without all the pageant, without the past glory. Well, because Barry Switzer came from Arkansas, and they must mistake him for, a coach as opposed to just a player. But I mean, just the possibility that every few years, Bama's going to come in, Georgia's going to come in, LSU's going to come in. It's just A&M's going to be back. That's going to be feisty again. Like, we're going to, and all of our games are going to be on television. And the beauty part that I can say without question is that hopefully this will be the last year, because if we're lucky, this thing starts in 22. Cross your fingers. We will never, ever have pay-per-view games for body bag opponents ever again.
Yep.
Western Carolina may well be the last time you drop 50 plus or however many it costs, and not to find an illegal stream on the internet like all of us tend to do. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't do that stuff. But what someone tries to find a legal stream on like Instagram, which looks like trash or whatever, or find a Zoom conference call like some people did last year. I don't know what you're talking about. I never did any of that stuff. But the point of the matter is, like,
don't forget Twitter live stream. You gotta don't
yeah,
forget that.
or someone on Periscope with their phone going, all right, you can see like Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball. It's like, good God. So you don't do that crap anymore. It was pathetic that the Big 12 was a Power 5 league and we still had pay-per-view games in 2020, 2021.
And that's not to interrupt you, but I want to mention something like that because that's driven me nuts even as a student and past that at that point where it was like, all right, let's see what the pay-per-view is going to be. Oh, it's going to be limited to Cox because they're still going through issues with DirecTV and everything. It's probably $55. Wait a minute, it's 55, but the face value is 35.
And you know what the beauty part about it is? There's a chance like these type of games will still be quote unquote premium subscriptions, but if you buy an ESPN Plus, it's what, $8? You'll drop $8 and plus you get a bunch of other content as well. So it's worth your $8 at the end of the day. So OU versus Western Carolina might not be on the SEC network per se, but that Longhorn network's going to get turned into some SEC something at this point because that's getting absorbed. They're not going to keep it. They'll keep it the Longhorn network for however long, and then they'll rebrand it and make it SEC alternate 2 or whatever, SEC 3, because they'll find a way to do work with that. But
it'll be the Mickey Mouse channel too.
Oh yeah. I've actually been on a Discord server though too, which I'm a moderator of. And I've had, these kids that are like 16, 17, 18 years old, they are hating Oklahoma and Texas like no other before. Looking at like
who 15? Why are they hating them? I know. I know. I'm asking why teenagers are angsty, but I guess
I don't know because they just somehow think that we're the most toxic fan base out there, and I'm like thinking,
look.
If you want to talk about toxic, I mean. Honestly, do you know how toxic, if anything, like we have to hear you guys, about the SEC, when you only have like 2 or 3 teams that are probably best each year, maybe 4.
Listen. I promise you, we win a national championship in the next 5 years. I'm going full heel turn. I don't care. I will be the most arrogant, SOB you've ever met. Especially if we do it in the SEC. Oh, I will get mugged outside of a game based on some of the stuff I will say. I will go full professional wrestling heel. Like, I don't care. I will go out to like some store and get myself a crown, a robe, and a scepter and declare myself the king of the SEC. I'm just looking forward to it. I will be so obnoxious. Like, I know I'm not. I know I am obnoxious now, but you haven't seen how obnoxious I can get. I promise you, I will be Barry Switzer times 100 obnoxious. Whether we win it this year and walk in with a title, oh God. Cannot
Missouri
wait.
Wear a crown. Wear a crown.
I will totally wear a crown.
Missouri was so close to doing that, I think, within its first season or 2 before they started getting very bad. That was like
Nah,
back
they
in
weren't-
2012.
No.
They weren't close. The East was just so horrible. The SEC East was just that. But now Missouri, all credit to Missouri, they had some players. I'm not going to take it away from them. But the East was so down. Urban Meyer had packed it in. He was done. He was pretty much out the window. He basically quit because health problems, of course. Poor Urban.
But of course, there was
And
some other shady stuff going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, you had Georgia with they were kind of like still the one team that should have dominated, but they didn't. And then you have everyone else just fell. But Tennessee is just I thought they were bad then. Oh boy, it's even worse now. South Carolina was okay. I mean, they're fine, but they just for whatever reason they always had the toughest cross division schedule. But I'm going on and on about that. But no, like it was not. I don't think it was ever imminent that Missouri was going to win. I mean, it was funny that they were in that shootout with Auburn like in 2010, though. I thought that was hilarious. But no,
how great is it going to be to watch Texas get drummed? Because Texas is never back.
What are you talking about? We can do that this year. We don't have to wait. What are you talking about?
Man, they can't even be competitive in football in the Big 12 right now. I don't think
that'll change. That'll change.
Okay, with Texas, here's the thing. I'm actually having Garrett Sanders, aka Cowboy TV.
Oh, hey, yeah.
He's gonna. He doing? Well, we're gonna do like an early afternoon, mid-afternoon stream on Tuesday, and we're gonna do like a Texas perspective on this because we've I figured it's been way past due to do something like that again. But
yeah, I remember back before even I started with stuff. It was you, Joe, Nick, and Garrett.
Yeah, but he's full time like a sports guy, local Texas TV. But with Texas, it's like I've told people over and over again, just go look at the records over the years. They don't win consistently. I mean, they'll have winning records, mind you, that are consistent. But like, if you're talking about like domination, like double-digit wins every year, like Mac was an anomaly. Like DKR back in the day, like late 60s, early 70s, is when he kind of like had his run. I mean, that's when you have like, okay, that's when Texas was really good. And then Mac was the other period. Other than that, it's like Fred Akers, no. Makovic, no. I mean, just go throughout the year. It's like out the years. It's like, and there's a reason they named the stadium after him, after DKR and everything. But I just people have this like perception of Texas because of that damn Rose Bowl against USC. That's not who they are. That's an anomaly. Like people remember, oh, that Rose Bowl is so great. It's like, yeah, one championship in 40 years. Congratulations.
And it was let's be honest, it was less the Texas Longhorns. It was the Vince Young Longhorns.
It's still whatever. It was still Texas, and they had a star player, so it's like whatever. But it like people think like people have this like we are like almost 20 years removed from that game. We're getting close. We're like we're 15 years removed from it, but that's starting to become like what 95 Nebraska was. People are remembering that team like 95 Nebraska, not like as one of the all-time greats, but like from a nostalgia the game that they played. But no, like I don't expect Texas to go walk into the SEC down. I expect OU to do it, and people think I'm crazy. And let me tell you something about OU. Like people say, "Oh, you're like, play an SEC schedule. You can't just walk in here." Oh, we can't. You tell me we can't beat the Mississippi schools, Arkansas? Oh my God, we can't take on Vandy and Kentucky and South Carolina. Oh, you mean like the bottom half of your league that you beat up on and it makes you look good just because you have a special logo on your jersey? I don't care about, and quit trying to convince me, not you guys, but the people trying to convince me that, oh, this SEC schedule, like you're playing the top 4 or 5 teams in consecutive weeks. Nobody does that. And even if you do have like a tough schedule where you have 3 or 4 of those teams in any given season, like you might have a couple of them back to back, like, Auburn had at one point when they played Georgia and Bama in like a 2 or 3 week span. That's going to happen, but don't sit here and tell me that OU isn't capable of like navigating a tough schedule like that, especially with the way the roster is now, the coaching staff is now, and what recruiting is going to be. Because guess what? When we put that patch on our jersey, we get the magical SEC powers in recruiting too. So all those disadvantages we had before, when we're trying to get these top 10, top 20, top 30 kids when it comes to offense and defense. It's like, man, I really like Oklahoma. You have a kick-ass coach. You have great facilities, but you play in a crappy conference, and that's on, FS2 sometimes. We're not going to have that problem anymore. We're going to be on the same playing field, and that's why Texas A&M crapped a brick this weekend, these past few days, because they're not going to say it out loud, or the Billy Liucci's aren't going to say it out loud, but they know the pecking order is going to be restored. That's not me being like arrogant or cocky. That's a fact, because we know the track record of our schools. I can speak for Oklahoma. Texas, we'll see.
Well,
But
it's what you mentioned in your stream, your emergency one, where it was the joke of Daddy's coming home.
Yeah, Daddy's coming home, and like the pecking order is about to be restored, and we get the big peak. We're going to get the big piece of chicken at dinner, especially in our division if we play in the West. Okay. So that's why they're scared, and that's why they're going through the 5 stages of grief. And I think they've reached acceptance already. But man, the bargaining period, we're like, we need to leave the conference. We should just leave the conference.
Please do. I dare them to do it.
It's like, I dare you to leave. Please go. There's like 25 teams right behind you who will gladly take your spot. Oklahoma State's one of them. They'll be more than happy to be crazy Aggie people that, like, with their little paddles and everything. They'll be more than happy to kiss their sister in the stands after every touchdown. They'll gladly take your spot. They'll wear your school colors. They'll take your dog from you too. They will wear your stuff and pretend to be you. Just go. They will take your spot. Please. That's what the Pokes are saying right now.
Okay, except they won't let you walk on the grass. They'll let people walk on the grass at that point. It's funny too you mentioned that, Sean, because I saw this earlier. I'm good friends with some SEC buddies, and they were like, after the announcement, once they started taking it seriously, and shout out to my buddy who's an Arkansas fan. He's like, is OU ready to go 7-5? Do you really think there's going to be a drop-off with OU going into the SEC? No, there's not. Maybe they're not going to do what their run is right now, but who expects anyone to go 6 years, possibly even 7 years, as a conference champion? Like, OU is going to walk in. They're probably going to be the top 3 or 4 team with occasional number 1. I just don't see the drop-off with it at all with it. A&M didn't drop off, and neither did Missouri until they were much more later into the conference, and the conference adjusted.
I mean, I'll be arrogant and say we can win 10 conference championships in a row in the SEC because I just believe in Lincoln Riley, because he's going to stay here for 100 years.
He's going to be coaching forever.
Yeah. He's going to pass Joe Paterno, except with all the child rape. But anyway, I had to slip that in there, just like Sandusky did. Anyway,
man, going dark tonight.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm cranky and I didn't get any sleep last night, so I apologize to your family who is watching these terrible jokes I'm making. But yeah, look, just look, like, if they do like a traditional East-West and they have to move some teams around, like, who we're going to play? We're going to play Arkansas, like I said, Arkansas, Mississippi State, maybe LSU, Missouri, A&M, Texas. I ain't scared. That doesn't keep me up at night. It gets me excited. There'll be some fun games to watch, but like, with our talent level, I ain't scared. I ain't scared of any of these teams. So bring on Tennessee. I'd love to play Tennessee. Pipe, please keep your job for at least a couple years, please.
Mm-hmm. I do want to say too, I've been watching some of the comments that we've been having coming in. Classic Sports says A&M was still in the middle of the pack of the SEC without OU in Texas. And I'll be honest, though, he's not.
That's an upgrade. That's an upgrade.
Yeah. So if anything else, too, I feel like, if anything, like, it did give you a slight advantage and everything, but honestly, OU and Texas. OU has been more of a slight advantage though too, which I think even with the Big 12. But it's like, if you get that recruiting within the SEC for OU, man, it's going to be kind of. I don't want to say it's going to be Alabama-esque or Clemson-esque or anything, but it's like going to be very, very much near the top.
Guess what? It's going to be. Because I'm telling you, I'll say it right now. I mean, for maybe people watching, but like,
we have 3.
I know, for all 3 people that are here. OU walking into the SEC, if they walked in tomorrow, it's 1 and 1A with Alabama at that point. I mean, Alabama's still going to be the better program right now. Nick Saban can't coach forever. He ain't coaching forever. And Riley's had offered how many NFL jobs at this point and still hasn't left? So don't sit here and tell me like LSU's in turmoil, Tennessee is trash. Kirby Smart. But he's going to be. We're not going to. Well, the likelihood will be in the same division with Kirby Smart. We might see him in Atlanta, although they should move the championship game to Dallas at some point for rotational purposes. I think we should be able to work that in because we should have the cash in to make that happen. But
I mean, Bama would like that. It's closer to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. They play those games there all the time, so I don't see why Bama would say no to rotate it to Jerry World. They're not going to have a Big 12 championship game get in the way, not anymore. So it's just the fact that like you look at just from a history and tradition standpoint, we're already 1-1A with Alabama walking in. Who else touches us? Nobody. I mean, the collective conference, like there's a reason they chant SEC because teams outside of Alabama, like individually can't really stand on their own most of the time with some of the big blue bloods. I mean, if you're hot at the time, like when Florida during the Tebow Urban Meyer era, they were like the hottest thing going. Or if you're Georgia, LSU when they're going. Or Auburn when they're up and down program mentality. Like sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. So like it's all over the place with them. But yeah, there's a reason like they have that mentality. And I'm loving these people who are saying is like, oh, you Oklahoma, these Oklahoma Texas fans banding together. It's like, well, who all these years were talking about how the Big 12 was this. I don't know where you found these people that allegedly said that we were chanting the greatness of the Big 12. I don't know who those. Listen, I know you could probably dig up some clips of like OU fans at the Sugar Bowl against Bama chanting Big 12, and it was awkward as hell. And I just roll my eyes every time I heard that. All due respect to our fellow fans, I was like, guys, there's a reason we don't chant that. First of all, it's a terrible chant. It doesn't flow. Like,
I can only attest for the 2014 one. They were not chanting Big 12. They were chanting SEC. Just to mock them.
They were doing that too, but someone was chanting Big 12. I was like, don't chant it. It just sounds awkward. That's not who we are. But the point of the matter is, like, you Texas fans pump their chest for their schools and only. And I would hope that would continue. I know. Listen, there's gonna be a lot of peer pressure for us to chant those three little letters and be, talk about it just means more and all that. Peer pressure is very important. Peer pressure can be very overwhelming. But remember, self-confidence, self-esteem is very important, everyone. So remember who you are, where you came from, and your accomplishments. You don't have to be like the rest of the crowd. It's okay to be different.
I do want to.
I'm going to chant it against Texas A&M, but that's only the one team I would do it against, unironically.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay, I wanted to talk back to you because Classic Sports also was just mentioning though too, with those two games like Atlanta and Dallas, he also put in New Orleans in there as well as one of the rotations. I don't know what they're not going to do that because of the Sugar Bowl, more than likely. I mean, I say that, but I mean, you got the Georgia.
They would. I guess I say, why wouldn't they have been doing that already? I guess is kind of my question.
That's a good question.
I mean, there's a reason for Dallas. I mean, you could argue if you're going to do it for A&M, you can move it to Houston, but you're not just doing it for one school. Now that you have OU and Texas involved. And then you have Arkansas and all these like regionally, like it would be. I suggest that not just because, it'd be really funny of the SEC championship in Dallas. Rotate it if you're going to have these two giant divisions. You want to like make it easier, like every other year for your Western schools. Like your Oklahomas, your Arkansas, your Texas A&M. Which is the easier trip. Is it a trip to Dallas or is it a trip to Atlanta? Now, I think it would help out some of the fan bases who want to travel by car, especially like right before the holidays. I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but I'm joking when I say, because I know it really irks some SEC fans. Like, you can't move it out of Atlanta. I mean, some people cried when that Georgia Dome got torn down. They really cried, especially the guy trying to get footage of the demolition when the bus came by.
Yeah. That is like basically. I feel
never
like
set your camera up. Never set your camera up.
Okay,
on the other side of the road.
Yeah, have you not even seen that?
No, I've never even heard of that till now.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right. So when it lands, all right. Hang on. So when they blew up the Georgia Dome, there was a guy who had his camera set up for a local TV station, and it was getting ready to go. A big passenger bus comes by and stops right in front of him right before it happens, and he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, and it became a meme where people like people would Photoshop the bus and like have it show up other places. It was a very temporary meme, but it was like so funny. But yeah, it's just like, what are you doing? Like, but the lesson he learned was never set your camera up on the opposite side of the street where a car or somebody could drive by during that. That's kind of on him. I don't blame the bus driver. Like I went to broadcasting school. They taught us these things. They said they showed that clip at a class one time. You see what happened here? That's not on the bus driver. That's on you. That's on you. You need to have your you need to be there early enough and have your camera set up so nobody can do that to you. It's where you set your camera is on you.
Okay. I'll take a look at it after the link.
But yeah.
So
yeah,
I never have heard of that. Like that is brand new to me.
And of all the things, and I'm not kidding you, and this is from what I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was from the Weather Channel.
It was from the Weather Channel.
That does sound about right, actually. I should mention that.
Yeah, the Weather Channel was actually streaming the whole demolition and everything when all of that happened.
That's fantastic. I'm just saying that is fantastic.
And
that the Weather Channel got a better one.
Yeah, it was like, and I'm not kidding you. Like the Weather Channel just basically, it just basically just did all of that, and I just cannot believe, if anything. I mean, I've, like I said, I've been doing some broadcasting and stuff like that and everything, but it's like, if there's anything that you should know, it's like you better know your terrain and stuff like that, where the buses are, like you said, Sean, and everything, because if you don't and basically set it up where you get the perfect shot and then something like that happens, then you're pretty much basically screwed.
Lesson learned. So something you mentioned too, Sean and Gavin, about like what you're seeing from like the reception and stuff. Going backwards a bit as well on it. I keep on remembering just from the past couple of days, like this is bringing out like the worst of some of the Big 12 like fan bases that I've never really thought about. I mean, outside of Baylor, Baylor can whine and gripe and throw a temper tantrum all they want. They're not going anywhere. But I'm surprised at the viciousness that Iowa State has been, and just they're in full meltdown mode as well with it, even though they probably have a landing spot.
Well, they just got good. That's why.
Yeah,
they just got good. Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm sorry. It's like you just now got your coach and everything, and it's like we've been telling you for years. You've been finally showing up, and everything, and then all of a sudden it's like it's like you're not doing enough. You need to be more tougher and everything. It's like screw it, I'm out of here.
You know how Matt Campbell has turned down some bigger jobs.
Oh, like
if Iowa State ends up in the American, he ain't turning down jobs anymore.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing I was thinking. I'm like, Iowa State's talking a lot of smack and a lot of trash for a program that hasn't really done anything over the course of their span. I mean,
they won last year in a pandemic. Congratulations.
I had one where they're like, did you win those 7 Heismans or whatever at like a charity auction? I'm like, 7 more than you have, bro. Like, at least win one before you come talk trash. But I've just seen some viciousness like Baylor, Iowa State. I feel bad for Kansas State. I felt like them and TCU.
I don't feel bad for Kansas State. Why?
I feel like they've already resigned.
A lot of their fan base are trash people too. I mean, all due respect. Like there's some trash K-State fans out there.
That's not how you say Texas Tech.
Listen, you didn't let me finish. Yeah, you think I'm looking forward to like, oh no, my God, we can't go down to Lubbock anymore and have batteries thrown at our players. Oh no, heaven forbid. Like Lubbock might be the trashiest place, like city in all the Big 12. It's just you want to talk about like modern day wild West. Yeah, I will not miss going to playing Texas Tech.
I mean, they are living up to their namesake at that point. Living on the brand.
Like it is. Now that I think about it, it's like they come here this year, thank God. And if we get out of here by 2022, we don't have to go back ever again. Thank God. No more going back to Lubbock. Bad things happen in Lubbock. I don't care.
Only if it's at night. Only if it's at night.
Well, no, last year was an exception, and I blame the pandemic for that. But like, I gotten in arguments with people last year who were trying to say, "Oh, the whole Lubbock thing is like blown out of proportions." Like, shut up! You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. And they were vindicated because it was a combination of pandemic, and we got Ronnie Perkins or Ramondre Stevenson back that game, and they just dominated. Thank God. And they broke the curse. But those things are real. Bad things happen in Lubbock. Even if we win, bad things still happen.
I mean, that's true. I think what you mentioned, I think you're the one who cracked the joke, Sean, or Red Dirt Sports did, of we don't know where everybody else is going except for West Virginia. We know exactly what they're doing right now. They're blackout drunk, and Josie probably needs to watch his front lawn to make sure there's not a burning couch at some point.
I mean, they don't have to go too far to do that. I mean, those are those people. The hills have eyes, and also burning couches up there in Morgantown. Listen, the best thing for that program was always to go to the ACC. It was kind of awkward when it's like they're joining the Big 12. Like, all right, I guess we need a 10th team. Like, welcome West Virginia. I mean, at least you have a mascot with a gun, so you match up with most of us anyway. So it kind of works out. It worked out at the end of the day as far as mascots go. But they belong in the ACC. They want to renew the rivalry with Virginia Tech and play for the Black Diamond Trophy they love so much. And it's just gonna be a lot more for their fans when it comes to travel. It sucks for them, even though it's keeping them from a distance is not a bad thing because those mountains, those people in the hills. But still, it's just. It sucks because going on the road, it's like a big road trip for everybody. It's like the closest team is like Iowa State.
And it's funny too where you're mentioning that, because where I was leading with this was, where does Oklahoma State land in all this? Because we've heard so many things, and we've heard, the funny one would be if A&M left, they would trip into the SEC, which I would hysterically laugh at at A&M. But then it was like, the Pac-12, and they were told, oh no, you don't have a television market. See ya.
I foresee a road game in Orlando against conference opponent UCF.
Are you going to go to that game and rep UCF?
Oh, I'll rep this. Are you kidding me? I'll root for UCF. Like, go UCF! I'll be that guy in the crowd. It's Orlando. Nobody's going to do anything. I've been to the bounce house. Nobody cares.
But seriously, where you said it's AAC. Do you just not see them following Kansas to the Big Ten, or even getting an invite for the ACC, being the opposite West Virginia?
I mean, they could, but unless something is imminent, like that's the problem. Like we talked about, it's like if the Big 12 just imploded randomly with no plan, right? It just sort of happens. Like a bomb went off and we all flew together like a puzzle pieces in a box. Oklahoma was going to have a landing spot. Texas is going to have a landing spot. Kansas basketball is going to have a landing spot. And then you can pick, try to validate who's going to land where and why and whatnot. As I said, West Virginia will probably end up in the ACC. The ACC has the Notre Dame in their back pocket contractually, although, as we've learned, that contracts can be bought out with money. And if anyone wants to, I really think if you're the Big Ten, you go full court press for Notre Dame again. I don't care. It's someone's going to tell me about their contract with the ACC. If they join a conference, they have to join the ACC. As we've learned for the past 100 years, nobody really tells Notre Dame what to do ever. So if they want to join the ACC and be a part of a conference, they will. If they want to stay independent, they will. If the money's really good and they want to join the Big Ten, they will. So, but as for the rest of the teams, there's no guarantees for anybody. I think the best thing they can do is group together, the ones that want to be a coalition, and try to become a package deal for somebody, whoever that, even if it is the American, you got to do the best you can. And Baylor needs to get on that too, because again, I hope Baylor dies a slow, painful death, because screw them all. But as for everyone else, the ACC, it's just, you guys got to, this is the one thing I got to put out there too. this has been building for a while. This whole super conference thing, or super league, or whatever you want to call it, where we're trimming the fat and getting to the big boy programs, and that's even affecting some Power 5 schools.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're a Power 5 school already part of a conference, like you know, like if you're like a Wake Forest or somebody, thank your lucky stars that your conference isn't imploding or wanting to kick you out, or like your major players are going somewhere else. The big boy schools want to play and do business with other big boy schools. There's a reason why, because I keep hearing like the Big 12 should have reached out. They should have gotten Boise State and Cincinnati and all these teams. I keep hearing that, and everyone's like finger wagging the Big 12. They should have done that. And it's a combination of the Big 12 not wanting to do that, but mostly the influence is coming from us in Texas. Like, there's a reason we didn't. Like, I know David Bourne said he wanted to get Cincinnati and maybe Louisville, or I don't know, BYU or Houston, or whoever you want to go back in time and look at who the Big 12 could have gotten to maybe strengthen the league. But the big boys want to play with the other big boys. This was building for a while. It was there were slow baby steps involved, and now we're here. And this is not the end. This is not the end of it. So I think when it's all said and done, like, the only big splash move is Notre Dame, and the way things are set up, you know, I think the one way you can get them to do something, like, their TV contract is nice and all, but guess what? The SEC is about to become that's going to eventually be $1 billion TV contract. We're talking like NFL level money. It's going to be insane. So I think at some point, the Big Ten will make a full court press for Notre Dame. Say, look, you see how much money they're making down south? You're right. Notre Dame, you're within like a 2-second drive to East Lansing and Ann Arbor. What are we doing? We've been like pussyfooting around for years. It's time for us to get married. You know, we've been dating on and off for years. Let's do this. Listen, we'll do whatever we can to accommodate. We know you want to play Navy and USC and want to have flexibility. We'll figure something out. But you need to be part of the Big Ten East, or whatever it is. But at this point, like, I don't know. I would trade Rutgers and Maryland for Notre Dame at this point. do like a sign and trade deal with some cash involved. Seriously, whatever you can do.
Well, and that's something you mentioned, and I have it written as a note with it, because I keep on saying, because OU and Texas are leading this charge going into the SEC, I keep on everyone saying this is just becoming minor league, and that this is the death of the amateur sports. And half of me is also like, when was it not minor league at this point? It's always been minor league. It's just now more out in the open. But the flip side of it, where everyone's saying this is calling for the death of like the program, they wouldn't root for it. I'm like, A, you would still watch football. Don't kid yourself. But B, I almost feel like we're going into a tiered system, almost like something that Josh Prime and Gavin would be familiar with like the high school setup here in Oklahoma, where you have 6A1, 6A2, 5A, 4A, and down. I feel like that's what we're kind of going towards right now.
If you want to watch amateur football, go to your local high school.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Go. Like, if you love amateurism so much, go to your local high school. I'm sure there's a neighborhood Pee Wee league or something you can go watch. If you love amateurism so much.
Yeah, because I was also going to say though too, because I know like within Texas though too, from what I remember though too, that now they've kind of gone on to where I think Texas has now even gotten back to 6A, but like a few years ago though too, because you know the revenue of the sport as well though too. So it's kind of been almost like seeing that, you know, growing into it, because remember back in the day it was still like 5A and everybody was still calling it 5A until they bumped it up, you know, and everything with all the money and everything that they got going in. Plus now that I think they're still playing in Jerry World. I'm not 100% sure, you know, the last few years recently, but it's kind of been almost seeing something similar like that. I mean, hell, even Texas high school football in the state championship has instant replay of all things.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's where I'm going with that, where it's like, why aren't we? I know that people are calling like this is going to be the death of college sports, but I think this is what's healthy, because is it really, putting in perspective, putting aside rivalries, putting everything aside, is it really fair that an OU is facing an Oklahoma State? because OU has the resources, they have the boosters, they have the tradition, they have all this stuff. And then when you look at Oklahoma State, they're almost like a 5A school where, yes, they could probably compete with the big boys like once a week, maybe twice a week, but they can't do that consistently with it. And let me finish.
Boone Pickens is turning in his grave with you saying that right now.
I know, right? Him and his made-up championship, which is insulting to Army, but that's another story for another day. But
he wasn't alive still when that happened, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that was one of his lasting things he did. You know, or Oklahoma State committed stolen valor.
Yeah, and they proudly.
It's a federal offense, you know, when you claim to have won something that the Army actually did. So.
I know, right? I mean, that's how unpatriotic, which is kind of funny. I saw the joke.
They actually stole. When you really think about it, they kind of stole from me. I'm a veteran, so.
It's true. It's true. Every time you go get your free IHOP once a year, they stole from you.
I did see a meme earlier though that basically said this: Oklahoma is going to move to the SEC. Oklahoma State is moving to Class 5A football, and then the Dallas Cowboys going into the Big 12.
That sounds about right. I laughed at a meme where it was Oklahoma State is moving to the Pac-12. They better start embracing that liberalism really, really, really fast on those West Coast schools. But
well, you know, a lot of right-wing Oklahoma State fans are really big on socialism right now because they really want to keep the Big 12 together.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
Exactly. So, but no.
Hey, socialism ain't so bad after all. So we got to be fair to everybody.
You know, that's something I saw, and I think you're the one who said it, Sean. And I want to bring it up on this stream because as I've seen more fan bases complain about us leaving, they feel like they're entitled to something because we've beaten them for 100.
They're entitled to get their heads kicked in for another 100 years.
Yeah, like it seems like it's like, well, we were hearing what made you successful. No, you weren't. No, you weren't.
I think Barry Switzer had something to do with that, and Bud Wilkinson, and I'll throw Chuck Fairbanks in there.
Yeah, but
I'm gonna
like,
pull this up real quick. I'm gonna pull up like the records, you know, from all of the schools and everything.
Sure. Well, where I'm getting at with this, though, with the OSU, using them as the example, if you take it, the late 80s all the way up to now, that's 40 years of football. How many years have they actually had something where they were truly like a threat to the other programs? I think Barry Sanders in 2009 to 2013, 14, when they had Brandon Whedon, that's it.
Man, the fact that you went that Brandon Whedon was your example. But listen, this is something I always joked about, and I'm actually, there is a part of me deep inside a little disappointed about this. We've as a football program, beaten Oklahoma State 90 times. It is the most lopsided in-state Power 5 rivalry in the history of the sport.
I thought Tulsa was their main rival.
No, Power 5.
Oh, gotcha.
Power 5. So I was going to have this is my long-term planning here. When OU beat them for the 100th time, if God help me if I'm still doing YouTube for whatever reason. But if I was on some sort of platform, whether it's here or anywhere else, I would get in front of a microphone and declare that the rivalry is over. They cancel the series. You've been defeated 100 times. It's over. There's nothing else to prove. You might as well quit football now. It's pointless. And we're already at 90, so I'm good. It's all good. You know, we'll do it one more time at least. We'll do it in Stillwater too, which is really going to hurt. I'm sure the fans will really take it well if we beat them up in Stillwater on our way out. Oh, they'll take that so well.
How do you know they're not there and they never fill up the stadium?
No, they show up for us. But yeah, it's just, I'll tell you, man, it's over. The rivalry is over. All there's people can hype up Bedlam when Oklahoma State has a high ranking or the Big 12 is on the line, and it's great and all, but they have 2 wins in 15 years or something stupid like that. It's over. It's done. We are more competitive with how many Big 12 teams that really put I think Iowa State has 2 wins. They're more competitive right now. K-State's got a couple wins. So back to back, even very impressive. So, I don't know. It's hard to get excited about playing Oklahoma State some years. No, don't get me wrong. When it happens, I get up for it. But like if in the off season, I'm not thinking about playing Oklahoma State. I'm thinking about playing Texas. I'm thinking about playing who are big non-conferences. I'm thinking about what the team has to do to try to win a national championship. Like, okay, what are the steps on the road to get there? And like Oklahoma State just happens to be at the end of the rainbow before we go to the Big 12 title game. But
well, and that's what I mean. Me and Josh have joked about this a lot because it's the exact same thing. It always seems like with the rare rainbow exception at some point where it's we get up and play Bedlam, things go crazy, it gets close, and then OU wins. That's usually the circle of life. That's just how it is. But I'm just using Bedlam as the example, or Oklahoma State as the example with it. But where I'm going with this though is what is going to happen with Bedlam, because Josh, I think you heard on the radio and stuff too, where even they're saying like it's not like they thought it was, and now it sounds like it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they'll be playing it anymore. I mean, where would you fit it in the schedule?
I mean, you could fit it in the schedule because how many SEC teams play out of conference, in-state rivals at the end of the year? Like a ton of them: Florida State, Georgia Tech, South Carolina, Clemson, Kentucky, Louisville. I mean, that's what they do. So it's not impossible, but from what I understand, like it's hurt feelings and it's hurt feelings in Stillwater that's going to prevent this from happening.
Really? Because that's now the third one I've heard. Because when Josh and I talked about it, it was there. We heard rumors that it was going to be they would just play each other yearly. That's why it's less upset about it than now. I'm hearing.
I mean, they can do this game if they really want to, but like from what I understand with Oklahoma, they would like to play it, but it's not a priority anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing now too.
It's like Iowa and Iowa State. If they wanted to play it, they can make it happen.
Yeah, you can make it happen if you really want to. But if you're going to have hurt feelings over this and not realize this is a business decision, sorry. Listen, in a perfect world, I would take Missouri, and like they wanted to go to the Big Ten anyway. Like for Missouri, the SEC was their second choice. They wanted to be a Big Ten school. They wanted to be like one of the academic powers, and it just like they took Nebraska instead.
Yeah,
I would put Nebraska in the Big Ten. I would welcome those paddle waving, hand waving, inflatable sheep humping, pokes any day of the week. I think they'd be crazy and fun to have along for the ride. But it's not going to happen. So, unless the Aggies want to leave and really like, it's not fair. Texas is here. All right, leave. The Pokes will take your place. They'll be more than happy to do it. So, yeah, it's just, if they want to make it happen, But the rivalry, it's like, when you just look at the records, it's like, yep, Oklahoma won that one, hands down. If it's over, it's over.
Well, and that's something I was talking to my dad about today, where when I saw the articles, kind of like the rumors here and there, but it's worth listening to, was when the Pac-12 was mentioning to Oklahoma State, like they didn't bring anything. And with all due respect to Oklahoma State with their sports with it as well.
They bring wrestling, Josh. They bring wrestling.
They bring wrestling. That's what was said. They bring wrestling. They bring golf. That's great, but that doesn't put televisions in households that people watch. And that's not interesting to them. If it's not, to all respect, and that's where it was going with this. I'm like, there's Oklahoma State football, and then basketball hasn't been good because of all the stuff with Eddie Sutton. Like, I think his impact on that program is just what's keeping that program back. And then the baseball hasn't been good for years. What is left at that point?
I mean, basketball, like if we're going to talk about basketball, that is the one thing I will kind of be sad about this at the end of the day, is that we're nuking a really good basketball league. If we really stop to think about it, like football is driving this bus and we're all excited. I'm excited, but I am going to be a little upset that we're nuking arguably one of the better basketball leagues in the country. Like it's right there as far as I'm concerned with the ACC. So that's being split apart now. And Oklahoma's going to go into the SEC basketball wise. And, you replace Kansas with Kentucky as like a team wearing blue you got to beat to win that thing. But I don't know. I don't see but schools in the SEC have gotten better at basketball. Alabama all of a sudden is really good at basketball. Florida traditionally is very good. So I don't see why OU couldn't do even better in basketball now, especially with Porter Moser as the head coach, the way things are going. I don't know how the SEC is going to affect like recruits with basketball. I think it's a different kind of animal when you're talking about recruiting, because they'll go I don't think conference affiliation is that important. It's just like big name program, 1 or 2 years of going pro. So I mean, but still.
Well, the other thing I want to point out though too, Sean, besides that though too, that most of the 4 or 5-star kids now are looking into getting more into the G League though to get that NBA experience now. You know, instead of taking that traditional college route now. And from I've been seeing though too, there's been quite a few players that they're looking at, you know, first round that are coming in from inside that G League.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other hour debate about how the NBA and college basketball do not work together at all, like the NFL and college football do. It's like completely apples to oranges. Like the NFL and college football are in sync. Like the NFL states 3 years removed from high school before we even look at you to draft. And that's perfect for college football because it allows teams and schools to have guys for 3 years develop their programs. NBA is like, you know, you could be 20 or 19, you know, it used to be you're 18, come out. It's like, well, you'll be 20 now. And it just, it got to the point where it was forcing kids to go to school for a year and they really didn't want to. And it's just awkward. And college basketball is kind of, is so broken on so many levels. Like everyone's worried that like college football is going to turn to what college basketball is, but I beg to differ. It's going to get even more powerful and more insane. But,
I did pull up let's see, it's Winsepia, and according to this, from the record as a whole in the Big 12, 446 to 151 to 24.
As for what now?
For what?
Basically 446 wins, 151 losses, and 24 ties. Basically, you know, being all in that Big 12 right there.
You talking about Oklahoma wins versus everyone else?
Wins, loss, and draws. You know, basically from all the teams that they played against that are in the conference right now, that's their record right now.
I mean, they've dominated this conference since pretty much outside of its very, very initial inception. It's been the OU and everybody else conference with some Texas sprinkled in there.
Yeah, so that's pretty much been it. But I'm also now looking at the SEC, and the problem is it's like with the SEC, they put Missouri in there, and they pretty much put all the history with Missouri, A&M in there as well. So looking at all of that, it's somewhat nearly even though too, but they put in all of A&M and Missouri's records in there though too, which becomes sort of like huge outliers in a sense.
Well, yeah. I need to find it myself, Gavin, but did you see what they actually did as a odds of if OU was to be in, here it is, Oklahoma versus the SEC in 2021. If OU was to join today, and what the spreads were, the only team that OU is not favored against, which
Alabama.
is completely fair, was Alabama at 2.1 points.
Which, that I would agree with.
I got to go buy my crown. I'll be right back.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And it probably is just caught in Oklahoma State's craw that they are would not be favored against us. They would be OU would be favored by 5.5.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of weird of how all of this is going on.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, it's something you brought up, Sean and Gavin, and it's something I want to throw at Josh too. With this announcement, let's assume tomorrow nothing goes bizarre. There's no team chaos, anything like that. Do you think several recruits that OU was looking at that committed to other schools are now having second thoughts? I mean, I had an immediate thought of that wide receiver who him and his brother are going to Oklahoma State. Do you think he's second? Do you think he's now? You didn't think about it.
I was like, at first I thought you were saying the other way around. Are recruits that OU is going after, are they? We can't go play. I thought that's where you're like, my mind was thinking, like, what are you talking about? It's like, are you talking about the Shetron brothers or just like the one that we cared about? I don't really care if he comes back or not. I really don't, because have you seen 2023 recruiting at wide receiver?
It's fantastic.
Like, we were already looking to get like 4 legit top 50 guys before this. Not only do we have the number 1 quarterback for 2023, like Hale and Ennis and all those guys.
Wait, I thought 23 went to Arch.
Oh, screw him. He's the son of Cooper. That didn't count. Anyway, so it's the inferior Manning. So listen, we have the number 1 quarterback in 2023. And listen, like the recruiting's forget wide receiver. LT Overton, come on down. It's official. Like, there is no reason we can't get LT Overton. Before, it's like, well, if things go right and we have a good year, maybe if we can win the national title, and, he really came away from the barbecue feeling all the love. And it's like, if we're in the SEC, I think we're getting LT Overton. Like, I am pounding the table. We're getting LT Overton, the number 1 player in the country. And that will set the tone for what our first few years, and as long as Riley and the staff is there in the SEC, is going to be. Like, I am excited for this. So we will be winning the wars in the state of Texas for the big time Kurtz again on defense. Period.
Yeah. Just imagine Mike Stoops finding out that he has to play Oklahoma on the schedule.
Is he still at Bama
Yeah.
Is he still carrying Nick Saban's bags for him at the airport and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Well, but I'm serious though on it. With those recruits that even if we don't care for them at this point, that they're going to go do their own thing with it. Do you think now they are having those second thoughts of like, man, maybe I should decommit? And
I couldn't tell you. Like those two guys wanted to play with each other. They're brothers. So
yeah, I mean, they're going to just stick it out as family. I mean, it's like, their whole deal is like, why are we fighting each other? Let's dominate the field together, sort of deal.
Well, one's gonna do well. The other one's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Even all the way into the AAC.
You'll have a great game. You'll have a great game against Navy. It'll be fantastic.
Well, and it was something you brought up, Sean, on it, which made me think kind of with the recruit stuff too. The only reason too is I was thinking with recruits, like they want to see their parents play, or the parents want to see their kids play. If they would, hypothetically, let's say OSU did go into the Pac-12, who wants to travel out to Oregon to see their kids play or anything like that? That excitement's now gone.
All right, Pete Thamel just posted this. A source with knowledge of the OU and Texas call with the Big 12 Executive Committee tonight said that the schools declined to answer questions about when they began engaging the SEC. The general tone was, "We're here to listen."
What? So what you're telling me is one brought the marriage counselor, the other one brought the lawyers to sign the papers.
Yeah, we're here to listen.
That is fantastic. That's the funny part.
Listen, let's not talk about when we started cheating on you. We're here to listen.
Please stay.
God,
well,
so cruel.
So and that's something to me on. I think it's, many factors aside, I really do think NIL is the driving force behind a lot of this, among other things, because I don't think it's coincidence that if the rumors are true that they were speaking to them back in December, that lines right up when the Supreme Court said they would take up the NIL case. I mean, they're forward thinking on this.
Well, and the other thing too, Josh, and besides that in NIL though too, you also have to look into like what basically like with the issue with like the expansion of the playoff as well. Because it's how are you going to, if you lose 2 games in the SEC with the current format as it is now, there's no way in hell you're going to get in.
Oh yeah, like right now, I cannot legitimately, and Josh Prime, you feel free to throw some facts and everything in there as well. I cannot think of one disadvantage for OU to go not to choose the SEC. Everything you think of, from the money to the conference to just expanding facilities, like we'd be able to finally expand that softball stadium. We'd finally be able to expand the press box. We actually be able to update it. Like, there's nothing that says, why shouldn't you take this deal?
I mean, we should join in the English Premier League as far as I'm concerned. I hear there's a lot of money there, but
we could put sponsors on the jersey at that point.
Or,
I mean, just from
the European Super League.
Just look at the fact that OU going there, the NCAA is becoming a paperless or a toothless paper tiger. Conferences like the SEC with all that power and money, they're going to be dictating college football.
I mean, they already are, but like, I know what you're saying on that. It's just it's not going to stop at OU Texas. Like, there's a ton of rumors about the SEC is going to go to 20 teams. I'm like, slow down. I'm not saying that will never happen. What I'm saying is like what we know right now, because people are throwing out like Ohio State, Michigan to join the SEC. Simmer down, Beavis. Let's not get crazy now. We're not there yet, okay? But people are trying to figure out if there's going to be 3 mega conferences or 4 or however this is going to work. And at some point, all these big boy schools are going to break away and form their own club. It's going to happen, and it's not going to be under the NCAA banner. I mean, they were already halfway doing it anyway. The NCAA doesn't run the playoff. It didn't run the BCS or the old bowl system. It's all third-party stuff. Like, we don't get, like, they don't hand out that really boring NCAA national title trophy that everyone gets in every other sport that I think is just the most boring trophy on the planet. It's a national title, don't get me wrong, but they're all the same for every sport. They just change the logo in the center and the name of what the sport is. Those boring wooden, like, everybody gets a trophy-looking trophy, like, just like if you've ever seen one. But, yeah, like, I think it's going to happen where the big boys are going to break away, form their own league. You know, they're going to have a league of their own, and there is no crying in the Super League. You know,
He said the thing.
Yeah, I quoted a movie that maybe some people remember. Tom Hanks was in it.
It was. It's actually a fun movie to watch. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, it's funny you mentioned that too, because I was talking to my dad about it, and I think out of all this going on, whether it's the whining and crying from Texas A&M, the whining and crying from Iowa State, it just has to be, even
and
though they
Oklahoma State.
No, I haven't really seen anything from Oklahoma State, except we're very disappointed in Oklahoma. Okay. Cool.
I mean, look, it's like I've been kind of hearing, you know, a few complaints, you know, just because, you know, since I'm near the Stillwater area, though, it's like everybody's kind of looking like, are you freaking kidding me? It's like, you know, we basically have been here on all this time. It's like, yeah, but the problem is you're basically how I use this term, you know, like you know, just like that child that gets bullied, picked on, and everything else too over the years. And of course, you get the star quarterback that's bullying it and everything. And of course, they try to keep him in and all that. And that's a different story. But
you want to hear this? I've just looked at a copy of the memo A&M sent out for their big meeting tomorrow.
Is it whining and crying? Please share. This is great.
Well, you know what the best part about it is there's a typo on it already.
That's fantastic.
So this all right. I want to hang on. I want to see if you can see where the problem was. I'll start off. Agenda: the Texas A&M University System Board of Regents special meeting via telephonic conference call on Monday, July 21st, 2021 at 5 p.m. What's wrong with that statement?
That was a couple days ago.
And it wasn't a Monday. They meant July 26th.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So you know what they're doing? They're like nervous typing, like and someone forgot to change the date on there. Yeah, but it's the same. It's the same. And it's the same. We're discussion with counsel on pending legal matters, including but not limited to. Listen, they're going to have like an hour or two cry fest, and then they'll accept whatever's going to come because there's nothing they can do about it.
Do you think after that cry fest, do you really think they're going to vote no, or are they going to begrudgingly say yes? No,
they will say yes because there will be so much pressure. There is no one on their side. Like they tried to say Missouri's going to say no. No, that's not happening. Missouri don't give a damn.
Missouri was staying in their lane, just like, nope,
Missouri is happy listen, Missouri's happy to be there. They're happy to get a big check when this happens because they like more money too, because they can stop. Maybe they don't have to put rocks in their end zones anymore for people to sit into. Maybe they actually put real seats there for once. But no, like this will be like, it's going to come to a point where they won't have to, like, they're trying to get to the point where they won't even have to take a vote. It will just be, you know, symbolic at this point. But I really truly believe that after tomorrow, within the week we're gonna get like, all right, come on in, guys. We're gonna make it like unofficial, official. We'll sign paperwork at some point. And they'll have the big press conference and Sports Center will break live. They'll go to Austin, Texas, because that's the more important place to go to. Yeah. They're not going to go. They ain't going to go to Norman. They're going to Austin, Texas.
To be fair, I don't mind that just because it's going to make A&M upset even more.
We sent 3 minutes. Let's see. They're going to have Heather Dinich will be in Austin, and we sent 3 midgets in a trench coat, all standing on each other's shoulders to Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay, so
hey guys, Oklahoma signed too. Yeah, that's great. What's Texas doing?
Yeah,
that has me in stitches.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Hello, other grown-up.
Okay, so this is from the Houston Chronicle on their Twitter page, and this was like about an hour ago, and it says, despite breach of trust with the SEC, Texas A&M will be a dutiful member.
That means they were put in their place and told to stay in their lane.
Pretty much. So
like I said, tomorrow they're gonna get together, and they should just get together at a bar and have a drink. And just like, remember we were in the SEC and we handed Jimbo that plaque that said national championship with like to be determined with an empty year. I guess
who does that? That is
Aggies do that. That's what Aggies do.
I was rolling my eyes when they did that. And I forgot all about that until now.
It's not desperation. It's not desperation. It's confidence. You know what I love it when the Aggies do? You have what's her face on Unnecessary Roughness with Brandon Walker, who's like the big Aggie girl on there, and like she kept saying over and over again that referring to Jimbo Fisher, we have a national championship winning head coach. Like over and over again. And yes, he won a championship at Florida State, but my God, they are trying to speak that title into existence so badly. They are so desperate now. And you could just hear the nervousness, like when they're talking about, we have a national championship. They're trying to reconvince themselves that everything's going to be okay when they know deep down inside it's not going to be. It's
Who
like
do they think they are, UCF?
Well, I mean, UCF, don't get me started. But no, like they are really trying to speak that, like they are so nervous trying to speak that into existence because they know what's going to happen. It's just, I've never seen a team get their butts whipped by Alabama by like 40, walking and think, you know what we're going to do? We got a shot at a national championship. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Last year Aggie said, we finished number 5. We finished number 4. We could have been a playoff team. No, you got beat by Alabama by 40. No, congratulations, you beat Florida. It was like you want to talk about Big 12 defenses. I watched that game. If Florida don't fumble the ball, you don't win that game. So I don't want to hear that crap. It's like,
I mean, to be fair, right now,
Florida was the better football team that happened to lose because of turnovers. Listen, I watched Florida play Bama, watched A&M play Bama. I know who the better football team was at those days. A&M, you might have gotten the win. Kellen Mond couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. They're trying to like prop him up as some great college quarterback. Ugh.
I mean, right now with all the whining and griping A&M's doing, I mean, they're just pushing their timeline up and they're just on point about their October train wreck. Except now it's just during July. They just have to get it out of the way.
Listen, the Aggies talk about their schedule and how easy their schedule is. It's like, I thought this was the SEC. Aren't you SOBs talking about how tough this conference is? And you're like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, look at how easy our schedule is. Like, did I miss something? Are we not on a similar level of recruiting with you guys on some level, at least offensively? Hello? Did I miss something? Oh, this is easy now, but it's going to be really hard for us. Well, we've been in the SEC for 10 years. I don't care. How many divisions you won? Conference titles? 0. It ain't that. It can't be both ways, guys. It's either easy or it's not. You can't have it both ways.
One of my favorite jokes that has been on Reddit and Twitter, and I told it to Josh Prime, was like, Texas is just scared to join the SEC. Okay, well, let us join the SEC and we'll show. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You can't join. So, this is the Aggies like big time schedule that they're so happy about. Kent State at Colorado, New Mexico, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Bama on October 9th. That's a loss. At Missouri, South Carolina, bye week, Auburn, Ole Miss, Prairie View A&M, at LSU, and it's adorable. They have the SEC championship listed. They must have tickets. So it's like, listen, I could mark a bunch of wins for them right now if you want to, but like they can get their asses beat by. Listen, Alabama returns 3 starters. I have more confidence in a bunch of those backups that didn't play much last year over A&M's current roster. I just do. I do too. Because I look at the coach that by the time you get to October, you think like Alabama's going to go to Kyle Field. Oh no, Bryce Young, he better be worth $1 million. I'll tell you that. He'll get benched.
Mm-hmm. Although the only thing I will say though that we better get prepared for if we do go to the SEC, we might need to prepare the cupcakes.
Cupcake week.
Whatever. So we're going to play Missouri State in November as opposed to September. Okay.
So I actually had a thought about that too earlier today with it. I know we really dunk on the SEC for planning it, but
yeah, we should. I'll still dunk on it.
I'm going to throw something crazy out there on there, and feel free to dunk on me back at this point. But is it kind of ingenious how they schedule it? Because if you want your later games, like your bigger games later in the year, wouldn't it be good to have that one right there where nobody cares about it, like during a Thanksgiving week, just to have the rest of those days open? Or am I completely missing something?
I have no idea what you're trying to say. Say that again.
I'm going to just say this though too, because usually they do it like the week before Thanksgiving, because most of the time, like Georgia and Georgia Tech, like Georgia does like all of theirs done before then they have basically that cupcake game before they have Georgia Tech, which they somehow usually meet pretty much on an annual basis. You know, as far as from what I can remember though too. Alabama, Auburn, they do the same thing though too, where they play that cupcake week before they play in that Thanksgiving basic, you know, whenever they play in the Iron Bowl. So, right. And it's like some of it is more like where they're basically fine-tuning the play in their quote state championship end quote.
Right.
It's just kind of been more of like, you know, I don't know if it's really ingenious or not, because, you know, they want to get the tough early games out of the way so they can focus on one game that might matter to them for the rest of the season, even if they end up being 0-9 or something like that.
Right. That's fair. Here's another thing too. We talked a lot about OU. We've talked a lot about just the SEC stuff. If you're the Big Ten and the Pac-12, are you freaking out at this point? Are you like scrambling and going, my gosh, we have to do something to equal the SEC at this point? Like we can't just sit there and do anything or sit there and be quiet anymore.
I mean, I talked about that earlier. I said they had to go get Notre Dame if you can.
Well, not just Notre Dame. I'm talking just in general, like renegotiating TV rights, like securing the Rose Bowl as like its own maybe thing or something.
Screw that. No.
I think here's the thing though too, and I know technically Notre Dame is supposed to be independent, but all their conference and everything is basically lined up for all their other sports with the ACC. You know, so that, you know, is
that they have some Big Ten. They have some Big Ten affiliation with some sports though.
Which sports was it?
Hockey for hockey's a Big Ten school or a Big Ten team.
Yeah.
There's like a few others because they don't have those sports in like the ACC. But no, like you don't renegotiate contracts. I mean, the Big Ten will do that, but in order to make the splash, you're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to add more to your roster, so to speak. It's like I mentioned, like the only big thing you can really do is try to go get Notre Dame, and you know, don't worry, they'll find a way to pay out that if they want to get them involved. But Notre Dame doesn't have to do anything right now. If they're sitting pretty, and if they're happy with their tiara on NBC and all their home games, and I don't know how their TV contracts would look like, that's what's going to force them. If the money gets so lopsided that they have to do something, they will find a way they'll join the ACC or they'll join the Big Ten permanently, whatever. They'll find a way to make that work. If you're the Pac-12, I don't know what you do. There really isn't any attractive options left. There just isn't, unless you're going to poach somebody, which I don't see happening, you had your shot at that 10 years ago. Adding Boise or BYU or these remaining Big 12 schools isn't really going to do much. Larry Scott is kind of a failure as a commissioner. That Pac-12 network was a disaster, a complete disaster. It just didn't work out. And like we talk about, I don't know what's worse, having the Pac-12 network or being in the Big 12 and having no network with the Longhorn network on ESPN, just making Texas all that money, and OU with their third tier rights and pay-per-view games. But still, it's just, if you're the Pac-12, it's like, I think if this is what I would do. If I'm the Pac-12, I get on the phone with the Big 10 and we merge. We merge and become a big super conference. Because I think that's really your only option. You're like partners with the quote unquote Rose Bowl anyway, but without the Rose Bowl being involved, this is what I think you could do. If we're talking like Super League stuff, you have the Pac-12 and the Big 10 who have an agreement to, if you want to get really nasty, all your non-con games in the Big 10 are Pac-12 schools and vice versa for the Pac-12 Big 10 schools. And then you go to your conference play. If you're the SEC and the ACC, you're already kind of doing it anyway, wink, wink. You can have your conference games, but all your non-conference will be ACC and SEC, vice versa. You're already doing that to some extent in the SEC with Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina, Kentucky, Louisville. So if this is where this is going to lead to, you have your partners on that side, you have your partners on that side, and then you have your college football playoff. We're all hunky dory.
I mean, that would make sense. And I mean,
the group of five is screwed anyway. So might as well make it official at this point.
And they might as well create their own thing with their own championship. I mean, that if you're going that direction with the Pac-12 and the Big 10 with it, just have it where the conference championship is just like, I guess, just to determine who you send to the Rose Bowl to have that big premier kind of game that's outside from the rest of the playoff.
Forget the Rose Bowl. Before all this started, I was going to do I did an epic rant on the Rose Bowl because the Rose Bowl is getting all uppity about their spot in this new 12-team playoff and how it's going to work. But we only want to play on New Year's Day. It's like, we're doing this garbage again.
It's funny. It's funny. You and I talked into it. It's funny because you and I talked about it, and I mentioned to you, do you think the Rose Bowl is going to put up a fit? And you're like, no, they're just going to probably fall in line.
It's a bunch of old people in red coats in Pasadena. They shouldn't control $1 billion sport. Stop it.
With their flea markets.
Stop letting a bunch of old people in Pasadena dictate how you run your sport. It's a building. You could rent it out whenever you want. And even if they don't let you rent it out because the redcoats over there are in charge of the city council of Pasadena, go down to Los Angeles where they got a brand new stadium. They just built state of the art. Or play, if you're really desperate, go to Levi up in San Francisco and go play there. Don't let some old people, some old biddies in redcoats dictate the way you run business in $1 billion sport. Stop it. Stop letting that happen. I know tradition is great. It's a building. Buy the building. Buy it from them. Make it just like they use it for flea markets in the off season. Just please, for the love of God, don't let these people derail you. They either play ball with the new committee or how things are going to work, or they're not going to be part of it. It's that simple.
I mean, that's what it seems like with the SEC at this point. That's what they're going to be moving to.
Like the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, Fiesta, they're all on board. They ain't going to do crap.
Yeah. Look how many traditions have got thrown out the window in the last number of years.
Oh my God. The Orange Bowl just hasn't been the same since they tore down the old toilet that was the Orange Bowl in downtown Miami. Oh my God. The parking was terrible and the bathrooms didn't work half the time.
Oh, it sounds like the Cotton Bowl.
Exactly.
It sounds like the old traditional Cotton Bowl. Got to get there early before they overflow.
Do not let the Rose Bowl dictate your $1 billion sport.
Which is interesting. Do you think they should move the OU Texas game, over to Jerry World?
No.
They'll listen. They'll keep it there as long as they can. But that's not the Cotton Bowl. Fair Park is not dictating policy in the college football playoff. That's not what's happening here.
And that's an exchange between OU and Texas. They want to keep it there, like barring absolute disaster, like the place doesn't exist anymore. They want to keep it there. It's beneficial for both, and it's easy to travel. And it doesn't. The tickets do, but the actual experience does not price out the normal fan.
Listen, it is a rite of passage in this fan base, in both fan bases, to stand around in the god awful heat for 8 hours in line to get some coupons so you can get a beer before the game. Okay, it's a rite of passage in this country.
It's true
for our fan bases to go that
Yeah,
game and get some
expensive
coupons.
rites of passage.
Some coupons.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you this. It's like I looked up, like, and I'm not kidding you, OU Nebraska tickets. They're like 3 or 4 times worth than like the original tickets for any regular season game that I've seen so far.
Yeah, it's like they should have put that game in prime time or something.
I know. If they would have, maybe we wouldn't be going to the SEC or something like that.
I mean,
all we wanted was a night game.
It's like Big 12 was like, no, they decided it. We don't have control of it. It's like, you should say something.
And that I want to mention this because we have about 20 minutes left for this live stream for it, and I want
20 minutes.
Yeah, we got like 20 minutes. This is a 2 hour.
No, we
don't. Sean's like, peace out, suckers. No. I do want to mention this though. Even if it was not wrapped up nicely, they didn't get the wrapping paper and the bow all done perfectly. I do have to admit how hysterical it is of OU and Texas making Bob Bowlesby look like a clown. From all of his comments, everything's fine in the Big 12. We're not worried about realignment. All the teams like each other. We're all good, and then it all came crashing down.
Put in that. Yeah, just put in that meme right there of the guy in the background that says, everything is fine, don't worry about it. And then everything's like flaming and blowing up right behind him.
That's Leslie Nielsen from Naked Gun. So.
Yeah, like he had no idea, absolutely no idea. But then again, he did nothing to help the Big 12 either. He pretty much was making us tread water.
Okay, let me defend Bob Bowlesby for a little bit.
This is new.
Hang on, like don't listen. I'm not. This was doomed to fail since 2010. Okay, it just was. It was always
the axe guy.
Yeah, like he was like, listen, this was never going to work long term. I'm amazed it worked as long as it did. We were 2 seconds away from being a zombie conference. We really were. Like the only reason people gave it him at the Big 12 is the 2 schools that are leaving it right now. That's it. I mean, you can talk about some great years for Baylor and Oklahoma State and TCU or Iowa State, whatever. That's a wonderful story. But nobody gives a crap about those teams unless they beat teams like Oklahoma and Texas. Truth. Yep. Yeah. It's like it was going to be an OU Texas league, and it turned into like an OU league on the field and a Texas league in the boardroom. But it was always going to come down to what Texas and to an extent what Oklahoma wanted. And if Texas and Oklahoma didn't want something, it wasn't going to happen. So in a way, OU and Texas were kind of in their own way as well. There's only so much you can do. The Big 12 could have had a network way back before all the realignment stuff started way back then. But we came up 1 vote short. So we could have been trendsetters like with the Big 10 and had our own network, but this logo, the horn logo, wanted their own deal. So we can sit and talk about how it's so-and-so's fault and this fault. Now, look, the commissioner's got to do something too. But listen, we basically morphed to Southwest Conference 2.0, and we get everything we deserve on some level when it comes to this. Like we listen, this is partially OU's fault to an extent. However, if when OU just starts to not get their way along with Texas, they're going to leave. I'm not trying to paint us to be the villains because we are the villains, and I'll embrace that any of the day of the week. Because at the end of the day, we're going somewhere where there's a good foundation and shit will get done.
What? You're telling me we're the villains? Always have been.
Yeah. So sorry, but like this was destined to happen one day. And when the TV contracts, like when the TV contracts were being laid out last December for the SEC and ACC, and the Big 12's like, hey, what about our TV contract? Oh, we're gonna wait and see what happens, guys. Let's slow down. We'll get to you eventually. That was the warning. That was a big warning. The clouds were rumbling. They were coming. And then you add on the 11 a.m. kicks and the Nebraska thing, and Nebraska. All the craziness involving that. We're here now. It's over. It's done with. So, Bowlesby did what he could do. He should have done more. Because if you had a strong commissioner that could get people in the room and convince people to do the right thing, he was just another guy. This was never going to work at the end of the day. You have strong leadership everywhere else. Sankey is like the biggest name in college sports when it comes to commissioners. Warren up there in the Big Ten world is an idiot. Like, I worry about the Big Ten because they screwed that up last year with the whole COVID thing. But no, it's just the Big 12 was going to destroy itself from within, and that's where we're at.
And it's sad when you look at it in the giant perspective of who loses out and everything like that. So I do have one final thought, and then we'll wrap up here with it. Josh Prime, going in, if this is going to say this is going to be the last 2 seasons, because I don't think stuff's not going to happen until at least 2023 at the earliest.
No, that's not what I'm hearing right now.
Really? What are you hearing?
This is it. This is the last. Like, if things go the way I think what I'm reading, this is it. Right? This year is it.
Really?
Yeah, this year is it. From like that, it is trending in that direction right now.
Really interesting.
So they'd be paying out that 70 million.
70 million.
Oh, they're not paying a cent of that money.
Well, no, ESPN's going to help foot the bill. Because ESPN's a big part of this, guys. Like, ESPN.
You ain't going to pay a cent of that grant of rights money. You mentioned it. It's the David Boren clause. They don't pay a cent of that with that sovereign immunity.
Well, there's a whole different reasons why they wouldn't. But even if there is, from what I'm reading, it's trending towards 22 is becoming a stronger possibility.
Okay, well, we'll keep that in mind then. If this is the farewell tour for Oklahoma and Texas, Josh Prime, what game do you think is going to be the game to watch, in your opinion, in the conference for, it's going to be their Super Bowl, essentially? We're going to bring our A game against OU. What game do you think that's going to be? You
mean, our opponents?
Yeah, they're going to come to beat the snot out of us.
You mean everyone?
Yeah, we will be the villains.
Right,
which game league?
Right, which game would you want is a cannot miss game?
All of them at this point.
Yeah, you have to see how this season goes, man. There's gonna be so much drama.
I only have
we're going to Manhattan this year, so
yeah, I may be meeting up with a buddy of mine actually up there to go watch that game. He was actually in here earlier.
They're going to throw chicken legs at Stillwater.
I think
turkey legs. Hey, if you're going to insult them, you got to insult them right. Turkey legs.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I think OSU has been the other one though too, but Iowa State though, if anything, that one I think is definitely going to be,
Well, they're coming here. No, they're coming to Norman, so.
Well,
I got deck mine.
Well,
they're coming to Norman.
Yeah, I still wouldn't write off Iowa State though, because I
know that'll be a game. That'll be a game, I promise you.
Kansas, yeah. There's gonna be a hard press game for you right there.
Hey, they've gotten salty those past years.
Are we? Well, wait. Kansas is in Norman this year, right?
Yes, Kansas is in Norman.
No.
We're in Lawrence.
Oh, so we're in both. So we're on the road for both. Well, you know what we got to do? If what are the Browns' bye week schedule? We got to bring Baker Mayfield for the coin toss.
I think that's fantastic. I absolutely think that's great.
Handshake. Let's do a handshake in midfield.
Everybody smile. Everyone do it. Yeah. I think if it wasn't going to be here, but I'm going to pick it anyway, I think the game I'm most looking forward to, if the farewell tour is this year, it's got to be West Virginia. They have never beaten OU while being in the Big 12. And they are going to do everything in their power to do that. Yeah,
the closest they came to was back in 2018 when we had that terrible defense.
No, 2012. When Tavon Austin ran all over us. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that 2012 season. That 2012, it's anything pre-Lincoln Riley, I've just sort of has a fate. Oh, you got one.
The Browns play the Broncos on October 21st. They're off that weekend.
That is fantastic. Bring Baker in. I think it would be
I'm
fantastic.
tweeting that out. I'm saying Baker should be invited back to Lawrence for the coin toss for the Pale World Tour. He would, and you know what? He would effing do it too.
Oh yeah, he would.
He would so do it. He would give that man a sideline pass in Lawrence. Like he would. He beats the Broncos on a Thursday, hops on a plane, then.
Oh god.
Oh my god, he has to do it now. It has to happen. Please. Do you really want your starting NFL quarterback to hop on a plane to Lawrence, Kansas just to grab his nuts on national TV again?
Winter's coming. So yes.
That is a backwards hat type of guy move.
Not in the SEC,
That
it's
is a
not.
backwards hat type of guy move right there.
Embrace it. Absolutely embrace it.
There's a backwards hat move right there.
Baker would be proud.
There we go.
Yeah.
That looks better.
You know what? You know what we should do? If we somehow decide to play Georgia, we need to bring our pretender signs with us. Every time we play Georgia.
Well, we're gonna play him in conference, so.
Oh no!
We're gonna play him in
I'm just saying. Okay, you want to show the pretender sign and everything? All right, we'll go ahead and bring it back, and we could probably go ahead and beat your butt again.
I mean, when you bring that up, that's something to think about too, is like, if with all the games that we scheduled that were conference games that or out of conference that will be conference games now, just slot them in for Big 12 for our out of conference. It would suck, but there you go. It solves the schedule problems and everything like that. But yes, that West Virginia game absolutely would be my kind of thing. Like, they're the only one I think would be like foaming at the mouth to beat us, even though it's going to be in Norman. If it was in Morgantown, oh my goodness, it would be insane. The absolute insanity with it. The other question is, who are we going to face in the Big 12 Wheel of Destiny bingo card at this point?
Iowa State, probably.
You think they're going to repeat, or do you think we're going to get
You know what? No. You know what? Here's what I'm rooting for. OU, Texas. What would be the greatest send-off? Seriously. I know it's a long shot, but it would be the greatest send-off ever.
It would be fantastic.
And you know what? And you know what? Like, it just, God, can you imagine?
This may be the greatest year ever.
I actually have a reason to root for Texas on some level. On some level.
Do you need some medication?
Well, listen,
I don't believe what you're saying.
Listen, I've conditionally rooted for Texas before for business reasons. It's not. I don't have that blind hatred just because. It's like I'm a businessman. You can reason with me, but yeah, like I don't like see. I mean, they can listen. They can still lose to Louisiana week 1 and make the Big 12 title game. There's no rule that says they can't. It's not going to affect them conference game wise. So
it's true. It's absolutely true.
All right.
All right.
Better, I'm better ready to get off.
Sure. We'll wrap up here. So, Joshua Prime, do you got any final thoughts?
It's going to be an interesting year.
It's going to be hysterical.
It's going to be an interesting year.
It's going to be hysterical. Gavin, do you got any final thoughts?
All I can say is that you better enjoy the ride while you can, because there's no getting off of it.
The hype train never dies. Never dies. Sean, do you got any final thoughts?
No, just screw the Big 12. We don't need you. We're better than you, and we know it.
It is why we're going to the SEC. So I don't have any final thoughts, guys, either. So I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream. We had up about 4 people watching. I know Classic Sports stayed in the entire time, so thank you for staying in. I appreciate it. I think next week I'm going to try to do another live stream to really get into the groove of doing like Sunday live streams after the games. I have some friends who kind of from the other side of realignment, what's going on. They said they would come on and talk about their perspectives as K-State fans, and I may have a couple other people come on. So it will be interesting to hear how they're kind of taking it at this point with it, if we can coordinate and everything like that. As well as I have a buddy who is out of Utah, where he's kind of looking at it from a non-Big 12 perspective and kind kind of going like what is going on for the Pac-12, what he expects and everything like that as
Okay.
well. So besides that, I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. If you haven't checked out his channel for whatever reason, go check out Sean's channel at Onikuno.
You shouldn't do that.
You should do it. You should
Mhm.
absolutely do it. He creates great content.
By the way, before we go, I did post something on Twitter about around 11 o'clock Eastern last night. I'm very proud of.
Yes, yeah. Everyone should go absolutely check it out because I think you pinned it to your Twitter too.
Yes, the one part I'm proud of most was in the background. I meticulously put that Auburn logo on the guy who kind of zipped in the background, then ran back the other way real quickly. Listen, that's my art. It took a little time, but it was worth it because it's a background sight gag. But dang it, it looks good when you catch it. It's so good.
I was impressed by the video. I was in stitches watching it. Have Gavin and Josh, have you seen it?
I have not yet, but I'm getting ready to right now. So
I will absolutely send it to y'all for it. It's a good one. So otherwise, guys, thanks for joining me on the stream. I'll see everyone here in a week. Otherwise, I'll see if y'all want to hop on and talk to those K-State fans and Utah fans at the moment and who else I can get, feel free to. Otherwise, I will see y'all here at the next stream for it. Once if everything goes according to plan with it as well, OU and Texas should be getting their invite to the SEC by then. So thanks for joining, guys. I'll see y'all here on next stream.
peace out.
Later.
Later.